The night has come, it's cold and
Welcome to the Light Gate, where reality bends and the unseen awakens. Preston Dennett, joined by Dolly Saffron, guiding you beyond the veil and into the infinite unknown. Every week we unlock high strangeness, extraterrestrial contact, hidden realms, psychic awakenings, the afterlife, and secrets they don't want you to know. Step through the gate, and if you feel the calling, subscribe to the channel and share it with those ready to awaken.
You just heard our first new intro. Welcome everyone to My Gate. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. We like this new intro because it leads into the fact that we are on radio stations. We are heard around the world. And just to let you all know, our numbers are now over 1 million. We were 1,100,000 listeners worldwide. And I'm kind of grateful. Thank you very, very, very much. Okay, we have a great guest tonight. And Preston, on to you. Oh, thank you, Carnation. We love you. Okay.
Yes, we do. All right. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And I think it's episode 146. Might have lost count here, so I'm going to have to confirm that with our producer because we got a little bit of a issue with, is it 143 or 144 or 146? I'm not sure, but it's around there. Yeah. But yeah, you're listening to The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron. We're so very glad you could join us today. We're very excited about our guest. He is a returning guest. It's been about 1.5 years. So we're very excited. He's got a new book out all about humanoids, my favorite subject. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to say a quick hello to all you folks in chat. We love you so much. It's because of you we do this show. It's because of you that Monday is that much brighter. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And let's see who we've got here today. We have Barris Carboni. I think I got that right, Barris. Hello from Sydney. I'm going to be quick with this, you guys, because we do want to get to our guest as soon as possible. We got Teresa Levine. We have Bahama King and Samuel Bassell. We have Johnny J2B from Crossville, not Knoxville. Oh, okay. Moving around a little bit. We have El Sartco from Lloyd Librarian and Lil Dove.
Hi, Lil Dove. Hi.
Uh-oh. Samuel's talking about a sunspot, CMEs, the Carrington event.
We had a flash today. We're watching it. Yep. X-Class. Excellent.
We have Olivia Escamilla. We have the wonderful, beautiful, generous Namaste. We love you so much, Namaste. Thank you for your support. Couldn't do it without you. We have Astrid Gooder from Sydney, Australia, and the Owlman and Evan B. and Louise from New Jersey. We've got quite a crowd already. This is awesome. My bud. We have Marshall J. and Gary Anderson. Very cool.
Hi, Gary. Thank you for helping us with the intro. Y'all, just so you know, Gary did this for free for us. He helped us with our intro, and we're very, very grateful to him. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes.
We have Jay Kirshenman. We have, just let me see, real quick, Dolly, I promise, Stargazer, Texas Cacti, Susan Mack. We have Heidi Gohl and Stephen Bedford. We got a lot of people. Oh. Yes. I think this is our guest, Slevik Stories. Yes, it is.
Ooh, hi.
It's Nomar. Glad you could make it into chat. We love that. Yeah. We have Stacy and Yahara and Poetic Poems. Yay. And Grace. There we are.
Okay.
Henry Jackson. Thank you so much, Henry. Very generous of you. Let's just get started because I cannot waste any more time. I will get in trouble. And we don't want that, do we? No, we don't want that. So let me pop up the banner here so you can see who our guest is. Let's see. Doink. There we go. All right. Yeah, Nomar is a returning guest. It was so much fun talking to him last time. Really an amazing storyteller, an amazing author, an amazing researcher. Really delighted to have him back. It's been over a year and a half. For those of you who didn't get a chance to watch that show, let me read a little bit from his bio. He's from Bangor, Maine. He's a ufologist and a paranormal researcher, member of Paranormal Research in Maine. That's Prime Paranormal. He's an independent creator, researcher, writer, and investigator in numerous aspects of the paranormal. Man after my own heart. It's not just about UFOs. They're all connected. So he delights in sharing stories through different mediums, such as books, documentaries, and podcasts, and has shared his work with hundreds of thousands of enthusiasts, and has maintained a steady output of material for over 20 years. That is awesome. He's been fascinated by all things paranormal since childhood, beginning with a UFO encounter at 4 years old. We're going to want to hear about that again, Nomar. In his adult life, his passion has been to research, investigate, write, and share UFO and extraterrestrial encounters from everyday people in a way that conveys the human element of profoundly strange encounters. Talking pretty fast there. He has many books, and his latest, I'll just pop that up right here because I'm super excited about it, is Humanoid Encounters, Creatures, Phantoms, and Other Strange Entities Sighted in Maine, forward by Albert S. Rosales, really the king of humanoids and a prior guest on this show. All right, I think that's enough of an introduction. Let's bring Nomar in.
Hi, Nomar.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back, Preston and Dolly. And Gary, that is a great new intro, so very cool. And yeah, you brought up Humanoid Encounters, and I had to have Albert, the man, the myth, the legend, on all things humanoid and encounter. So I had to have him write the forward, and he was gracious and a delight to work with. So that was very cool for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone out there on this planet, at least, who knows more about humanoids.
Yeah.
He lives, eats, and breathes them.
He does, and I was throwing things at him, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I have something like that." Boom, and I have it in 2 seconds. It's crazy. Wow. The inventory of humanoid encounters that man has.
Yeah, his books are absolutely essential research tools, and really anybody who's interested. What are they called? Humanoid Encounters, I think is what.
Yeah, I think so. And then a date range, basically. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again so much for joining us tonight. This is going to be exciting. I had a lot of fun talking to you last time. Dolly had to drop out, as you may remember, about halfway through.
Yeah.
So hopefully this time we won't have any interruptions. But yeah, we've grown a lot, our audience. So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who didn't have an opportunity to listen to your prior show. And perhaps may not have heard of you. I don't know where they've been if they haven't, because you're out there. You're definitely.
I'm definitely out there, and I'm also in the chat. So I'll keep an eye on it. If somebody has a question and I see it, I'll try to answer it if it
good.
comes
and
up.
Boot anyone out who's crazy.
Yeah, you better be nice in there.
Just saying. All right, yeah. So tell us, how this all began. You had an encounter as a young kid. That sounds interesting.
That was truly the catalyst. So I'll paint the picture. It's early 80s. I'm very young. I'm 4 or 5 years old, and I had gone to bed. My mom put me to bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night. A loud noise woke me up. And I remember my eyes popping open and kind of like looking around for some sort of reason why this happened. And I started to hear light tapping on my window. And when I looked over there, I realized it was rain. And then I saw the sky light up. I was like, oh, that was probably thunder. Maybe that woke me up. And so I was like, cool, a thunder and lightning storm. So I kneeled up on my bed and was looking out the window, and I was seeing, the lightning. And we lived at the time at the tip of Maine, and we lived right on the St. John River. And I remember looking down at the river, and it was like raging. I'm like, whoa, this is a crazy storm. And then out of nowhere, there was this really disturbing lightning bolt. And it was like if I were to ask you to draw a lightning bolt, you would draw that jagged yellow line, with that one little thing in the middle. And it was stuck in a cloud. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, even at 4 or 5 years old, like, I know this is weird. Like, I knew that you see lightning just, really quickly. So I'm watching it and there's electricity coming off of it and there's more booms associated with it. And the where the lightning bolt was like stuck in the cloud, there was kind of like a halo around it, a really like light halo around it. And I'm watching it and I don't really know what happens next other than I woke up the next morning. And when I got up the next morning, I went to the bathroom and I was walking back to my bedroom and I can see out my bedroom window and the lightning bolt was still there. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I ran downstairs to get my dad and I brought him upstairs to show him, out the window. I don't know why we didn't just go outside, but I brought him upstairs to look out the window and it was gone. And I was trying to explain to him about the storm the night before and the lightning bolt stuck in the cloud. And I'm sure to him, I sounded just like, an excited kid. He kind of like patted me on the head. He's like, okay, buddy. But I must have been really insistent. And I kept bringing it up because he had to like kneel down, get on my level, hands on my shoulders. And he was like, buddy, it didn't even rain last night. Like, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So I thought that was weird. I'm 4 or 5 years old. So, the next shiny thing caught my attention and I kind of forgot all about it. A couple weeks later, I'm woken up again in the middle of the night, but this is my dad waking me up and he brings me downstairs and I can see my mother putting my sister in her winter clothes, like jacket and ski pants and stuff. And then she does the same to me. And then my dad scoops me up and we all walk outside. To me, this is the middle of the night. It's like 3 a.m. It could have been 8 p.m. I don't know, But we're on the frozen tundra of our front yard, at living in the tip of Maine, and I have my face buried in my dad's chest because it's freezing, and he keeps whispering to me like, "Buddy, you got to look up. You got to look up." So I finally like take my head out of his chest and I look up, and I see these beautiful ribbons of colors, and it was the Northern Lights. And we've had the Northern Lights, last year, like so many times, and every time it's cloudy here, like I can never see them. So that was like the one time in my life I saw them. And I think those two things happening so close to each other at such a young age created like this weird core memory, like weird stuff happens in the sky and you should probably pay attention. And I kind of been doing that ever since, but it all started with this lightning bolt. Now, there's a friend of mine, a colleague, and I actually wrote a book about him. His name's Mike Stevens. Just last week, he sent me a picture that somebody took of this weird UFO thing with this weird lightning bolt next to it. And it's a daytime picture. Mm-hmm. It's wild. He's like, this is the only thing I've ever seen that reminds me of your story. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the thing. It's just that one jagged line. I'll send it to you after the show. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Oh. Where that was taken? That picture?
I think fairly recently, but I'm going to send it to you right now, Preston.
Oh, okay. Via email or
either. Yeah. Bear with me. I'm so sorry. This is riveting.
No worries. So have you seen the Northern Lights recently? Because
I haven't.
We saw them all the way down here in Georgia.
Right.
That's so insane.
All the way to Miami, actually, this time. We had a KP 8, and it was very powerful, and it got in our magnetosphere pretty good, and it just rolled,
That's wow.
So you like Maine, huh? It sounds awful cold up there.
Yeah, and it's awful cold right now. We actually don't have running water right now. It's awful. I emailed that to you, Preston.
Oh, all right.
We lost water on Saturday.
Yeah, see, that's why I won't let that happen to us. We have been solidly freezing, below freezing for 2 weeks. Our lows have been like 9 and 10. One night it was 6. Wow. And so I leave all the cabinets open. I make sure to keep the furnace running at about 72, 73. And I drip the water. And I run hot water through the pipes last. And I'll run my dishwasher late at night for that reason, because it'll keep the pipes running. And I'm just like praying, please do not freeze our pipes, please.
Yeah.
Because it can happen. I know it can happen. I lived in Wisconsin for a while. And yes, it can.
Yeah, you know the cold then. And so this has actually never happened to us, but we have this one little frozen line that's running. We have a well, and it
Mhm.
runs from the wellhead right to the basement, and they think that line is frozen. So somebody's
Yeah.
coming out tomorrow to like unfreeze it and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, that was
hopefully
the other thing I did that I didn't say. We have our well, and it's got one of those rock tops on it, and it's not enough. So I cleaned out one of the chicken coops and dumped all that hay on top of that thing, and then covered it in double plastic and weighted it down and prayed. And it's like, please don't let that freeze. Please don't let that freeze. Because I knew. Oh no.
All
This is
right.
not-
Got the picture ready. Here we go. Boom.
yeah, and you got to zoom way in on that white
Yeah.
piece there, but you can see the jagged. Yeah, the jagged.
That is odd.
Isn't that interesting?
Huh.
And that's very reminiscent of what I saw. And I see here poetic.
Roll in
poem.
on it, Preston, all the way. I want to see it full blown.
All right. It's Superman's ship. That's obviously what it is.
Maybe so. But yeah, that kind of, it's very reminiscent of what I
In
saw.
the daylight sky. That's odd.
Yeah. My buddy Mike sent it to me the other day. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even begin to know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's not a UFO. Okay, it's just not. They don't do that.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm wondering what kind of technology that is, but it's not theirs. It's ours.
It's something.
And,
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Dolly's a contactee, by the way.
Oh, for sure.
She's had an enormous number of experiences. I was actually taken on board her craft, which was very cool. I don't think that happened last time I was talking to you, but yeah,
No.
I had a
Is
full
that-
onboard experience.
Can we talk about that a little bit? I mean, I'm sure you've done it on the show before.
Not a whole lot, but yeah, I mean, it was my birthday, and I think
Oh my
that was
goodness.
intentional.
Yeah.
It was about a 5-minute long experience. I'm dreaming when suddenly I'm not dreaming because I'm woken up and I'm seeing like a hole in the wall, and I'm pulled up through it. And it's a very electric feeling up this kind of energy beam, and I'm finding myself in outer space. And next thing I know, I'm lying on, the table that we hear about. And there's a tall hybrid looking lady, very thin, absolute snow white jumpsuit. Little guys around me, which I didn't really look at because I'm looking at her. Her eyes were like, oh my God. Not the least bit scared. I'm ready to get up. And they're like, no, we need to make sure you're all right. I'm like, I am all right. Let me up. Look at it. I want to explore.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And finally I convinced him to let me up. And there's this Dolly's main contact. Now, I already knew her story was real
Mama.
because of talking to her, but here's this 8-foot tall gray, really big head with huge, beautiful eyes. And she's just the epitome of grace and beauty. She tilts her head slightly and talks to me telepathically and says, so, is this what you thought it would be like? I'm like, no, not really. This is much better. This is much better. I mean, it was a great experience.
Wow.
I explored the craft. I saw other people there.
You were on longer than 5 minutes. I don't know why you keep saying it was 5 minutes. It wasn't. It was way longer than that. We had you on for 20, 25, easy. So
all right. Well, I'll have to try to do some memory recall then, because
think about what you're describing and all of that. And it takes about 25 minutes what you describe. And that's about how long you were on. So
all right. I'm not opposed. Yeah, it was so cool, Nomar.
Yeah, I
because
can't.
Having researched this, you can only imagine what it's like. So.
Yeah, I've had my own sightings, but I don't ever recall any sort of abduction thing. That's kind of implied where I don't really remember what happened. Then I woke up the next morning, after seeing that lightning bolt second, but I don't remember anything. I haven't done any, regression or anything, but yeah, that's kind of, the ultimate experience, if you will, for a researcher of this stuff, like how much closer to the topic can you get,
And, there's got to be a reason you're so interested. I'm not sure it's just the two things as your childhood, because
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've had a lot of sightings throughout the years. I think I'm up to maybe like 18 UFO sightings. some daylight, mostly night. There's even been a couple of humanoid type things that I've seen, and even my father has had a couple of like humanoid sightings, and one of them just like came up fairly recently for me, and I included it in the new book.
Okay, now wait, hold on a second. You're kind of just glossing over this.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me get into some of the details. So the first humanoid thing that I ever saw, this was a lot of years ago now, maybe a decade, maybe a little more. Actually, it might be closing in on 20 years now. Time flies. Anyway.
Doesn't it?
So I'm living in an upstairs apartment. It's a house that was turned into like 4 different apartments. And I'm on the second floor, and there's an awning that acts as like a little roof that I can see out my kitchen window, and it covers the porch down below. And I had woken up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, to go pee. And you walk out of my bedroom into the living room, into the kitchen, and then into the bathroom. And I was just about to step from the living room into the kitchen. And when you do that, there are these 2 big windows in the kitchen, and they overlook, or they look out to that awning roof thing I was telling you about. And you just can't help but look out at it, when you walk into the kitchen. It's just where your eye goes. And I saw this silhouetted black shape perched on that roof. And it was facing out towards the parking lot. It wasn't facing me. And it was like jet black. I could barely make out any details other than it had a bald head, pointy ears, and folded wings on its back. And I'm frozen at this point. It's stopped me in my tracks. And my weight shifted because I stopped so abruptly. And when my weight shifted, the floorboard beneath me creaked a little bit. And the head of this creature tilted slightly, like it put its ear towards me, like it heard me. And I'm like, oh no. And a second later, this thing stands up, and then its wings like shoot out, and it sounds like a baseball pitcher throwing like a 90-mile-an-hour fastball into a catcher's mitt. Like a smacking sound when these wings came out. And then it just did this graceful nosedive off the roof and glided behind the apartment building. And I was just like, what the hell? I couldn't go to the bathroom. Like, I lost, all interest in that. And it really kind of scared me that this guy could be my ex-wife. It scared me so much. I went back into my bedroom and I put on some sort of funny movie. I can't remember what I put on, but I put on a funny movie just to kind of get my mind off of it.
Yeah. You saw a gargoyle for real.
Yeah. It was some sort of winged humanoid. It was weird. And I did go outside the next day to investigate to see if there was any like footprints or anything that I could see, and there was nothing.
No.
But I did find a story that happened about 22 years later, where somebody in that same city, about as the crow flies, it was about a mile from where I lived. They saw this black winged creature flying in the sky. They were driving on the highway and saw it, and they were so aghast by it that they pulled over to watch it. And they were like, am I seeing somebody hand gliding? Like, what am I seeing? And it was this black winged figure, So like, is this thing flying around, living in this town?
No, they live everywhere. They're around.
Yeah.
I've seen
the long culture. Dolly.
I was driving home from the base late at night. I had a long day. I was moving bombs to North Georgia, and I came back, and I was going to have 2 days off because I was moving bombs. Okay. And I'm exhausted, and it's raining, and I go right by, I lived in Pine Mountain, Georgia back then. And I went right by RJ Reynolds' place, which is RJ Reynolds, the aluminum people. Okay. And he had this house that was so cool. It had a real honest to God copper roof on it. And it had a tree that was massively huge, and a light that goes up through the tree with a big light dreaming down on the road, because nowhere else has light around there, nowhere. And I'm going through, and I slow down because I'm looking up in the tree, because the tree's illuminating this big black thing. I'm like, what the heck? And I slow down and I'm looking up at it as I come up to it, and it dropped out of the tree, hit my windshield, went and then slid off the roof of my truck down in the front. I ran its butt over. I was not playing, okay? Vroom. He's lucky the truck was jacked up, okay? I did 100 mile an hour the last block and a half home, okay? I get home, I get my BDUs off, I put on my nights, I get my shotgun loaded, crank it, and sit on the front porch for the rest of the night waiting for this thing. But it was black, it had pointy ears, it had wings, and I mean, it was solid damn black, and it had clawed hands and feet. And it left marks on my windshield.
Wow.
And it never left
Yours
me.
was kind of short though, right?
Well, I think it was young and stupid because it landed on my car. Okay, on my truck. I had with a Hemi, you know. Oh, a Dodge Ram 250, you know, with a Hemi. And
a Ram, well, that's appropriate for
I rammed it pretty good. I didn't hit my windshield. I stopped. When I hit the brakes, it slid off the top of the thing down.
And it had wings too, right?
Yes, black wings. Leathery looking black wings.
How tall was yours?
It was like normal, like man height, if you will. I'd say 5.5, 6 feet tall.
Yeah, this one was almost 5 feet. If you stood him up on his feet, he would have been 5 feet. I think he was young. Okay.
And what about the wingspans? I think Poetic Holmes was asking that.
Yeah, the wingspan, you know, it was probably double its body, you know, so you know, maybe 20 feet across or because it wasn't 10 feet, so maybe triple the body, something like that. It was pretty wide, so I would say 15, 20 feet across. They were pretty wide. I
didn't get to see it fly. I ran it over. I went back the next day to see if there was a smooch on the ground. No, nothing. Absolutely no proof, nothing. Yeah. And I asked the old man, I asked RJ himself, I said, did you hear anything at 2 o'clock in the morning? He said, what do you mean? Like the screech you made it on your truck? And I went, yes. And he said, I don't talk about stuff like that. And I was like, okay, fine. Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. That's what that means.
He's somebody asked here, humanoid or bat-like? For me, it was like a humanoid with wings. That's how.
Yeah, humanoid with wings. Yeah, a gargoyle with an ugly face. Yeah,
I have to give credence to stories like these because look at our cultures with these images of gargoyles everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not unusual. Did you ever interview anyone who saw things like this?
Yeah, I interviewed a gentleman. This was probably close to 20 years after my sighting. He saw something not really similar, but it was a winged humanoid, if you will, but it wasn't black or anything. It was actually kind of he thought it had like translucent like skin, and the wings were much more bat-like looking in his opinion, and he saw it during the daylight, and this was about 4 feet in length, and he said it had tubes coming out of its head. He tried to eat, like he drew it. Yeah, he drew it, and it certainly looks friggin' weird. But you know, he was walking home. He's 17 at the time, and he was walking home.
Oh yeah, they can see the same thing. Their ears are really pointy, and it could have been they were leaning over and it looked like tubes. Because I saw that his ears. I saw it up close as he's going down. And you had really pointy damn ears. They were long, pointy ears. You know. Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, because this was up, he saw it flying. He actually heard like this chirping, squeaking noise, and he thought it was like a mouse or something. So he's looking down, and while he's looking down, he sees this shadow go by, and it was large, and he's like, "What the hell?" So he looks up, and he sees this thing fly overhead, and he said its wingspan was about 20 feet across, and he was almost home, and he lived in an apartment building in this little town, and he said it swooped up over the house, and that its wings kind of went from one part of the house to the other, and he went out and measured it, and it was 25 feet, something like that. I don't have the info in front of me, but yeah, and he said it was a crazy experience, and he knows the local wildlife, because we have herrings, you know, here, and he's like, no, he's like, it was not that. This was nothing like I've ever seen.
I lived near a great forest, right? See, I lived in the Pine Mountain National Forest, okay, in Pine Mountain, Georgia, and every time I hear somebody say gargoyle, it's always somewhere near something like that. It's like that's their homeland, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. Because behind the apartment building is this swampy area.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I did this little vigil there for 2 nights, 2 separate nights. I didn't stay all night each time, but I stayed for 4 or 5 hours each night. And on the second night, I ended up seeing these big red eyes, and they were just below this branch that had to have been like 20 feet in the air, or up the tree, and these red eyes were just below it. And that's all I saw, during those 2 nights that I was back there, trying to catch a glimpse of this
Yeah,
thing.
you know why bats at night look like they have red eyes?
Yeah.
Because their retina is wide open, okay, and they have no lens that stops light refracts back into it comes out and then comes in. When it refracts like that, if you're looking at them, it's like taking a camera shot of somebody with blue eyes. They look red. Same thing with bats at night, and that's why they're red. And the thing that went down my windshield had red eyes too.
Oh wow, yeah. And all my pictures, I have blue eyes, and all my pictures when I'm a kid, they're all my eyes red and everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So was that a scary experience, would you say? Like, did that freak you out?
When I saw the red eyes, or when I saw my
both.
creature?
Either.
When I saw the creature on the roof, yes, I freaked out. I was very scared, but I also thought it was cool though, and I wrote everything down. And I was in the beginning stages of my journey of like documenting like strange stories and things like that.
Wow.
But the red eyes in the swamp, I'm just like, sweet, give me more.
Yes, like, come on. I know.
Because I'm not sure if I'm envious or kind of glad I haven't had that. I'm a little bit on the fence there.
Yeah. And I was letting the weather play a factor in me not trekking out there to see what these red eyes were, because it was swampy and it was actually the middle of summer. And so the mosquitoes were awful, and and I didn't want to come across anything. So I just stayed in the car and observed,
Yeah.
So Maine apparently has quite a few more things going on than just
gargoyles.
It's got gargoyles and probably Bigfoot, I'm sure.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of stories about Bigfoot over here. But I also saw this other strange thing. This was in the winter of 2020. It was February of 2020. So it was literally like a month before the world changed, And I'm driving home. It's about 6:45 p.m. and I'm on a back road in the town that I live in. And up ahead, about 300 yards, my headlights shine on this thing that's standing on the side of the road, up on the left-hand side of the road. And there are ditches on either side of the road. And so there's no place to pull over. But as I'm driving, I see this thing standing on the side of the road, and it takes this elongated step over that ditch and walks into the woods. And this thing looked like a bundle of sticks for each limb and torso and head. It was all like twisted sticks, almost like the Blair Witch stick dolls, that they made. Or for modern audiences, like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy,
Groot, yes.
Yeah. But it didn't look wood. It looked like it was made of wood, but it was inky black. And it didn't have antlers, but it had these 2 sticks or bones or something sticking straight up out of its head. And they looked to be maybe like 24 inches long each. And it stepped into the woods and walked. And so, I'm going about 45 miles an hour. And so I come up on this area very quickly. And it's a back road, so there's not too many people on it. There's no place to park. So I just stopped my car in the middle of the road. And I put it in park, and I roll down my windows, and I want to see if I can see anything. And I want to hear if I can hear it crunching on the snow. And I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. But just a moment later, this awful stench came into the car. And it was like sulfur or like rotting meat or something. And, you hear about that in Bigfoot encounters or like black-eyed kid encounters or demonic encounters. But I've never experienced it. But it was awful. And, this was February in Maine, and I had to drive home with all 4 windows down to get this smell out of the car. It was awful. So I get home and I write everything down. It's almost annoying being a researcher and author. Maybe you can attest to this, Preston. when you have your own encounter, you're like, I want to be unbiased, but this just happened to me and I'm human. So I'm writing everything down and I email it to a buddy just so it's out there and it's out of my head, and it helps me to process it, I guess. And I never thought about researching the immediate area that I live in. It just hadn't occurred to me, I guess. So I decided to do some research to see if anybody else had seen something like that, or if anything had happened here. And I had come across an interesting UFO encounter from about 30 years earlier that happened in 1996. And this UFO was hovering over the water, and these people were driving a car. And as soon as they kind of got into the UFO's line of sight, it started pacing them. And then it went right over the car, and they decided to get out and look at it. And apparently it was just, 20, 30, 40 feet off the ground. And they were looking up kind of inside of it. And it had lights on, but it wasn't reflecting down onto the ground, which was really confusing them. They would put their arms up and the light wasn't touching their arm, but it was illuminated. It was hard for them to describe, apparently.
I've heard that kind of thing.
Yeah.
UFO lights are hard to describe sometimes.
Yeah.
They're very bright, but they don't reflect onto the ground.
Yeah. So strange. So anyways, they kind of played around with this UFO for, 2 to 5 minutes, and it kind of grew bored of them, and it ascended and went back over the water, and then it ended up shooting off and taking off. But never would have found that story if I hadn't researched my area, because I saw this weird creature thing, made
So
of wood.
do you think that was possible?
I have a question. You got a lot of Vikings up there? Viking people?
Not that I'm aware of, but
You look
that
like a
doesn't mean
Viking
that.
yourself.
Well, thank you. I
Well, I know you do, because I got family up there and we're all Vikings. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, and they do rituals up there. And Eedi is a massive deer in the legend of Yggdrasil. Okay. And, Thor and all that. And they emulate him, and they go up there and they dress up like this stag with the 2 antlers going straight up and prance around like that. And I'm wondering if you ran into that.
Yeah,
maybe.
Let you see them.
a guy in a ghillie suit. Is that what they're
Yes.
called?
Yeah.
But that doesn't make a lot of sense out there on a remote road late at night. What are they going to
Yeah,
wait
that's
for? a
when
car
they
to
do
come by?
it. That's when they do it. Yeah. They wander the woods at night. It's a thing. It's an
Yeah.
actual thing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
How long
what?
did-
Maybe
How long did you get a look at it? Was this
4 seconds, 5 seconds, enough to see that it was inky black, and it looked like it was all these sticks bundled together that made up its limbs and its torso and its arms.
Yeah,
and-
it would have dressed exactly like that. That's how they dress. I'll
that's so
send you
crazy.
pictures of the ritual and you'll freak out. You probably
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
it.
Do they also carry skunk
Uh,
smell with them?
yeah, especially the shaman, who would be the one who's emulating Ide, Eddie. So yeah,
I don't
Wow.
know.
yeah,
They're
it's
unusual either way.
It's a big deal, because they believe that this huge horned deer is responsible for all the rivers and the estuaries and the springs and everything. And his sweat going down is what creates all the rivers. That's their legend, of Yggdrasil. And they perform these rituals out in the woods near creeks and lakes and rivers and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. A couple of questions here. Flea market gold. How tall was it? I thought it was normal, person height. 6 foot, a little bit under. And then
Yeah.
Candy Channel asked if it was stick thin. I don't know about stick thin, but I thought it was fairly thin.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't a robust person.
Right.
Well, interesting either way. I heard about a case in Canada where a guy saw an antler man, like a Bigfoot, but it had antlers.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
and someone else mentioned
Yeah.
Wendigo. So.
Yeah. I saw that
Wow.
too. I have been given reports of people coming to me thinking that they might have run into a Wendigo, and one of them was probably about 15 miles from where I'm at. I still don't think it was a Wendigo, though, in my opinion. But
You want to hear
interesting.
something interesting about all of that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm a Viking. I'm Same Viking. Okay, I'm Nordic Viking and Swedish Viking and Finnish Viking and Russian Viking. I'm also Sami Swedish, Sami Nord. From Norway and Russia. Okay, I have all those bloodlines, and one of the funny things about Native Americans is we're all the same people. We're the white ones and they're the darker ones, but we are the same people. We live in teepees. You know who the Laplanders are, the reindeer herders. We have all the same songs. We have all the same legends. We have all the same rituals and everything. And we have the same religion, which is, we call it Yagastril. They call it, the animals of the forest, the gods. Okay.
Sure.
And there's star people, which is Yagastril. That's where that is. It's in the stars. Okay. I want you to understand this. So when you hear the Native Americans talking about something, you need to understand that this is not native to only this area. It's all over the North Pole, everywhere, all the way around, all the countries that encompass that, everywhere, because we're all the same people. Native Americans here came from us walking down in here first. Okay. And we bred in with the people who were here, and they became Native Americans. See what I'm saying? Do your homework. I'm not kidding. Listen to their music. Look at how they live. Look at how they clothe themselves. Listen to the songs and the rituals, and you realize they're all the same people, native people or star people. Okay, and the Vikings came back after Americans came here, and they were living up north. Literally living up north. They were leaving runes and all kinds of things all over the bloody place. There's some in Wisconsin. There's some in Maine. They're everywhere. Okay. There's a whole, some places down as far as Pennsylvania as well. Okay. And so a lot of these creatures that you see roaming the night, thinks that it's their ritualistic, it's their ritual creatures that they are doing rituals for. Okay. It's their religion. They're practicing their religion.
That seems like it might be kind of dangerous if someone's walking around with a shotgun as well.
Oh yeah,
it is. Well, they're pretty good at not going where that's happening.
I hope so.
And I've never heard of anybody getting shot in the middle of the night. That would be horrible. But yeah, it's think about it. Add it all up. Look at all the information across the board, and you will realize that, oh my God, this is related in ways we didn't even originally think. Okay.
I know the accounts of these kinds of things go way, way back, and culture is rich with all these mystical beings of many kinds. Yeah. So here's my next question. So you're putting together, what inspired you to put together this book?
The book previous to this was the catalyst for it. So the book previous to this was UFOs over Maine, 10th anniversary edition. And so, of course, it has, a whole bunch of UFO encounters, but I also ended up having all of these really interesting humanoid encounters mixed in with it. Mm-hmm. And as I kept doing my research, that's it right there. As I kept doing my research, I kept finding all of these really interesting entity encounters that people were having. And so I just kind of kept saving them up, because I had already had about 400 stories for that book right there. And so, I don't want to keep packing it, you know what I mean, full of stuff. And, it was time to put it out anyways, I was done writing it. But I kept collecting all of these weird humanoid entity creatures that people were seeing. And so I kept collecting them. And I had so many. I think I was maybe around the 60 encounter range, just in Maine. I'm like, this is enough to compile into a new work, and I'm excited about it, and I need to put it out, or I need to start working on it right now. And it just ended up being the next book. I just couldn't stop doing it.
I love the humanoid cases. I think a simple UFO sighting, I think, is important. It has something to offer, but it's limited in the amount of data it has.
Sure.
These humanoid cases, there's so many, and
they vary widely. It's crazy. There were cases that I found where people were running into what basically sounds like a really large Sasquatch, 8 feet tall or so, really broad, but it had a flesh face with no eyes or mouth or anything. That's so odd that, these boys saw it in the woods, and this one of those boys who had grown up and went into the military and ended up getting hurt and moved back to his childhood town ended up seeing it again when he was exploring those same woods. Really wild stuff.
No faces and no eyes, no nose, no mouth.
I've got a theory about this. I've been thinking about this because there's a bunch of these accounts, and I'm sure Albert Rosales would agree. There's accounts of faceless humanoids. And I'm like, because that can't be. I mean, you have to
Right.
have a face, right?
Right. Right.
But I had my own encounter that came as a memory of a dream. So I can't say this is a fully conscious encounter, right? But try as I could not see the guy's face. Every time I looked up, it would blur out, as if he
Interesting.
didn't want me to see it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Little screen memory stuff or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking something maybe along those lines.
Yeah. Somebody brought up one time, I think I was on a podcast, and somebody brought up maybe it was like a helmet or a face mask, and I'm like, oh, I suppose that's possible.
Pantyhose over them.
Yeah. I wanted to point out here, L Pete, I think his name is L Pete 2766. I actually wrote about this. You might have written about this too, Preston. Where this person had a UFO experience at the drive-in theater. That was like a famous thing that happened here in Maine in 75. And all these people witnessed this UFO basically kind of like creep over the movie screen. And then it like made itself known. And it was a bit of a chaotic type of event where people were kind of screaming and running and leaving, and people saw it go down this road. Pretty wild stuff. Pete, you should contact me, man. We should talk about it.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a thing. I wrote a book about it, UFOs at the drive-in.
Yeah.
I think the ETs are putting on a publicity campaign. That's my opinion. Because what better way to sort of announce your presence when you have a captive audience of 200 people?
Yeah, right.
Looking up.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me because it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 80 encounters in this book, or you said 60 or
60 to I think it actually might top out at like right around 100 or so. And it even goes into like mimics. There's puckwudgies. Not sure if you guys have, that's
I know the term.
Yeah, it's to describe it very generally, but in a broad sense, think of Ewoks or like a mini Sasquatch, if you will, but from indigenous legend. But there have been many modern sightings of these little creatures, and in some tribes, their lore about these creatures, they're a little bit more malevolent, they're more like tricksters. And then there's other tribes where their lore with these similar types of creatures, but might be a different species maybe, they're much more benevolent, and they like work with the tribes, and they kind of create their own homes and things based off of the indigenous tribes that they're with. So it looks like little mini towns that kind of mimic, and they like support one another. So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I'm curious, in this book, which are the two most outstanding cases that you've got in that book?
Oh boy.
Two most outstanding. How about 5? 8?
Yeah.
That's a good question, though. No, yeah.
It is. There's a lot of good ones, but there's one that has really like stuck with me, and it's the tiniest, quickest little story, but it's creepy and it's weird, and I don't know why it's sticking with it, but I'll tell it, and and hopefully it'll stick with you. But thanks, ICP. Thanks, man. So there was this woman, this was about over a decade ago now. I think it was maybe 2009-ish. And it was a summer night, and she was living in southern Maine and living with her boyfriend. They have a dog, and she's outside in her backyard talking on the phone to her dad, and her dog is with her chilling, and the boyfriend's in the house somewhere doing something. So she's talking to her dad, but her dog is literally like just chilling. And this is a dog that likes to explore, sniff around, and it was just sitting there staring at something. And she was kind of half paying attention to it. But she noticed, she's like, oh, I wonder why he's not walking around. But she's continuing to be on the phone with her dad. And then her dog like stands up, so it's on all fours now. It's not just sitting. It stands up and it's intently looking at something across the yard. Mm-hmm. And so she finally like, looks at the dog, is like, are you okay, buddy? And it starts to do this really deep guttural growl that she's never heard before. She's heard it growl and bark, but not this. This was like different. And so she decided to like follow its gaze across the yard. And at the base of this tree, she says that she sees this alien kneeling down, and it's staring directly at her. And she described this alien as probably tall because it was like all limbs. Like all she could see was like long legs and long arms. And she's like, oh my God. So she's talking to her dad. And she's like, I gotta go. So she's hanging up her phone and is about to put it in her pocket. And this motion of taking the phone from her ear to her pocket kind of signaled to the dog, like, go chase after this thing. So the dog takes off running and it's barking. And this alien stands up and now it's looking at the dog. And she says when it stood up, it was like 8 feet tall, super duper thin. And it takes off running. And while it's running, it either starts to cloak or disappear from the head down. And at one point, it's just legs running. And then it disappears completely. The dog stops running, but continues to bark at this thing. And she's just like, what the hell just happened? That's the crux of the story. The rest of it is she like finally wrangles the dog, gets the dog back inside, tells the boyfriend what happened. She's so freaked out that he believes her, and they go out to look for footprints or evidence, but their backyard was a lot of gravel, some grass, so it wasn't conducive to footprints. They didn't see any evidence of anything being there, but it was over 10 years later when I'm talking to this woman, and she's like, you could tell she was tearing up. And she's like, I close my eyes to this day when I go to bed and I see it. I see it in my mind's eye. And I don't know why I had to see this thing. Like, why did this happen? And I didn't have a good answer for her. I never do. When I talk to people, I'm just
She's
like, thank you so much.
she had a mantid being watching her.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is they sent down a cloak to beam to take it up, and that's why you saw it disappearing from the top down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
As you were describing, with the long stick-like limbs, that's kind of a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
They have a way of
they refer to themselves as the Watchers. Okay. And that pinpoints that she is definitely a contactee. I mean, they don't watch over people who are not contactees. They do.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this story then. So there's this child, and this happened just a few years ago, very young child. I think there were like 3 at the time. And they said that this insect, this large insect, walked into their room. This was in the middle of the day. And he was in his room with his sister, and they were like playing, but separately, like one was coloring, one was like reading books or whatever.
Daytime?
And, I'm sorry?
This was daytime?
Yes.
Yeah, it was daytime.
Yeah.
And he said that, this large insect walked into the room. They said it was mama sized, so that's like a full-sized human.
Right. Yeah.
And it walked into the room, and he said it picked him up, bit him on the inside of his stomach, put him back down, and backed out of the room, like still watching him, but backed out of the room. And then once it got to the doorway, it looked back one last time and then went down the stairs, and he heard it open the front door and leave. So
did it leave a mark?
No, it did not leave any visible mark on the outside of the body, but he said it bit him on the inside of his stomach. The next day, him and his mom are like reading a book, and they're just like hanging out. And he's like, Mom, something really weird happened yesterday. And he tells her what I just told you. And she's like, okay, well, thank you for sharing. Let's get a book out. Let's look at some insects and see what you think. And, he was seeing the ants and the grasshoppers, and that was more like it. It wasn't exactly it, but it was more like it. And to me, it was sounding like a mantis sort of situation. And then the child, over the course of a few months, developed some sort of blood illness. And I don't want to share too much about it because they didn't want to share too much about what was going on with the child, but it had some sort of blood. The child had some sort of blood illness. And when they went to the doctor, she ended up telling the doctor this story. So the doctor kind of knew everything that's been going on. And she's like, do you think there's any way possible like this happened? And this new illness is now happening because of the bite. Was it infected? What's happening to my child? And the doctor was, I guess, the best way they were trying to put it nicely, but and politely, like no, of course that didn't happen. An insect didn't come in and bite your child, and so they weren't the happiest, hearing that prognosis, if you will, from the doctor.
There's a type of gray, AI gray, that looks like an ant face. Okay.
Interesting.
They're stick-like, and they have ant type of features. And if he did that to the child, he was trying to direct the child to get medical help. It was a deliberate act on its part.
Yeah.
It was warning him. Okay.
Interesting.
And when he said it bit me on the inside, not the outside, that was saying he has something on the inside. He was telling him.
Wow. Yeah.
And
That was
get help.
exactly my thought, because I wrote a book on healing cases, and I've heard this kind of thing before. And sometimes they will come to a person prior to an illness manifesting because they can detect.
They know you got it. Yeah. And they want you to get help. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating. Now,
that's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now the same town, and this happened years earlier, but this same town, which is a very small town, I happened to go to this garage to get some new tires. They were very affordable at this garage that happens to be in the same town that this little kid lived in. And I'm sitting in the office while the guys are putting new tires on my car. And so I'm sitting with the owner of the place, and I like the waiting room is basically his office. So he's just on his computer doing his thing, and I'm just like sitting there on my phone. And he goes, "So, what do you do for work?" And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." So
I love that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You asked.
So I explain, and he goes, something might have happened. And I love it when that happens, because that almost always happens. And he goes, so I'm outside one morning and I'm tinkering around in the garage. It's like 5 a.m. and I have my morning coffee and I'm tinkering around. And I start to hear like the hum of motorcycles coming from like the back of my house. But there's no roads behind my house. Like it's all woods. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, the sound's getting closer and closer and louder. And it's a little bit different than motorcycles. Like, I don't know what it is. So he stands outside to look at, to see whatever's coming. And he's standing there holding his coffee, and he sees what he claims are two grasshoppers, human-sized, on these hover motorcycle thingies, and they just whiz by his house.
Oh my God.
He's like, what? But, drinks his coffee, goes back in his garage, and never tells anybody until like 6 years later when I walked into his office and was getting my tires changed. And this was maybe 2 months after I got the story from the kid. And I'm like, are there insects?
Not connected, not at all. No, and what you're describing is back engineered BS. In other words, how do I explain this? When you're back in engineering things, they get a little crazy and they build craft for fun. Okay. And they like to play little weird plays on people to confuse them about what's really going on around them. And they'll do stupid stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting.
That was back engineered. Tomfoolery.
So did he say what color they were? Or did he get a good look at them? Or?
He didn't get too good of a look at them, but the color of them was like an olive type of green. From like the blur.
Drab, yeah.
And he said the hover motorcycle things were like a dull gold, or maybe like a dark kind of beige.
Yeah, that's military grade stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Back engineer. Yeah.
It's so crazy because just think how many people don't tell anybody. He didn't tell anybody. What are the chances he's going to meet you?
I know.
Probably would have been lost to posterity, as most cases are, I think.
Yeah, I would say 90% of them. Maybe that's overshooting, but I feel like 90% of stuff like goes unreported and we just never know about it. Because, this old timer in Maine, he's not going to like risk his business or anything, or doesn't want to sound like a lunatic. But I come in being like, hey, I like this stuff. I look into it. And he felt comfortable sharing it with me. And it felt like such a privilege,
Yeah.
That's really good. I'm glad when people talk. It's interesting. We need to know the whole story on both sides of this. Okay. Think about it, because there's more than one side to this. Mm-hmm. Literally more than one side. And unless we know both, we can't make any reality decisions about what's really going on, And so hearing the whole story from everybody's got a job to play in disclosure. All of us, because the government's not going to do it. We just need more people like you guys to document it. So if they're talking to you, it's a good idea to listen to them and write it down.
Heck yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Wasn't the Allagash case in Maine as well? Yeah.
It was, yeah. And the famous and very awesome Ray Fowler really took that story head on and wrote this wonderful book called The Allagash Abductions. I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. And he had the guys go under months long regression therapy to pull all this story out of these 4 guys who really didn't know they were abducted at the time. They knew something weird had happened, but it wasn't until Ray got these guys in contact with a hypnotherapist, and they each one sat down for multiple month sessions to get this whole story. But it all started up in the Allagash Wilderness Waterway, which is this section of northern Maine where there's hiking and fishing and all this great stuff. If you're outdoorsy, I'm not outdoorsy, so that sounds like a nightmare to me. But these guys were 2 of them were brothers, twin brothers, mind you, and then 2 friends. So it was 4 guys, and they were living and going to school in Massachusetts, and spring break was coming up, so they came up to Maine for 2 weeks to live off the land and do all this cool stuff. And it was their second night when they were camping in this area, and there was all these other people there, and everyone there saw this UFO in the sky. It was this big, round, bright light, and it kind of looked like the moon, but the moon was already like in another part of the sky, and everybody's like, well, that's freaking weird. And, and then it disappears. It lasted all of a minute, and everybody kind of went back to what they were doing. Well, a couple of nights later, these guys go to an even more remote little island lake area. It's just the 4 of them on this little riverbank. And they were there for about a day, and they were running low on fish. And so they had to start fishing. That was their food source. So they spent the day fishing. They had no luck whatsoever. So now it's nighttime, and they eat the rest of their food, and they're like, we got to go. Let's try some night fishing. Maybe we'll have better luck, and they'll be biting tonight. So they set up this big, almost like a bonfire, so they could find their way back into their
Yeah.
because they were going out.
Idea.
Yeah, so they're going out into the dark. So they're out and they're fishing, and they're still not having any luck. But then this bright light appears in the sky again. They go, oh, the UFO's back. Check it out. And then this beam of light shoots down to the water, and it's almost like it's searching for them. And then it hits their canoe. And then the next thing they remember, they're all back on shore at their campsite. One of them is still sitting in the canoe. The other 3 are standing on the riverbank, and they're all looking up at this bright light. It still has the beam of light that gets retracted, and then the UFO shoots off. So they help, the one guy get out of the canoe and back onto shore, and they go and sit at the picnic table. And they're like, what the hell just happened? And they're all super tired, very lethargic, and their bonfire is now just embers. But it felt to them that they were gone for maybe a half hour, but it was clearly like multiple hours. They were
Red flag here. Missing time.
Yep, definitely missing time. So they still had like a week and a half left of their vacation. And to them, it really felt like they were just going through the motions. They weren't having fun. It wasn't a camaraderie sort of thing anymore. They were tired and they felt strange, and they didn't have a great rest of their time. Then they go back to school, and then they kind of start living their lives. One gets married, then another one gets married, and they kind of separate and move to different parts of the state. And then one of the twin brothers starts having these nightmares, and he's surrounded by these creatures, and he's like, what's happening? He'd wake up with, super sweaty, sweating in the bed all night. And then he started having these epileptic type seizure type things, and he goes to a doctor, and he explains about these crazy nightmares, and the doctor says, you should talk to Ray Fowler. And so there was this MUFON convention that Ray Fowler happened to be at in this town, or close to, in the same state that these guys were in. And so this guy decided to go there and talk to Ray Fowler. So Ray's signing books and doing his thing, and this guy's standing in line waiting to talk to Ray. And he gets up, and it's finally his time to talk to him. And he's like, I think I've been abducted. But Preston, I'm sure, I've been at conventions and stuff, and everybody's got a story they want to tell you, Yeah. And it's like, okay, yep, thanks. But, you're trying to get on to the next person. So Ray was kind of feeling that same thing. He's like, thanks, man. I appreciate you telling me that story, but I got to keep the line moving. And this guy was like pretty insistent. He's like, Ray, I have a twin brother. And this happened to like all four of us. And Ray's like,
That's right. Yep.
oh, twin brother. Okay, let's talk. And so he's like, give me a minute and we'll go talk. And so Ray finishes up doing his thing. And then these guys go talk. And then that's when really everything broke loose. You know, he was introduced to the other three guys, and then he got them the hypnoregression therapy. And then what comes out is what happened during the abduction. And it really plays a lot like, you know, Betty and Barney Hill, or all of these really early abduction scenarios where they're on tables like, you know, you guys had experienced, and a series of tests are performed on them. They remember fingernail clippings were taken, semen was taken, and one of the guys was really offended by the whole semen taken process. He felt really violated by it, and he was really angry, and he kept telling these entities how angry he was, like, you violated me, I can't believe you're doing this to me, you know, and are you doing this to the other guys? And because they were examined separately, but they were sat all together and they saw other people on the ship.
It's an interesting case because they all verified each other's situations, and one of them's an artist as well, as I recall.
And he put out a couple of like comic books about, you know, their whole experience. It's a wonderful comic. I have.
You want to hear funny information? It's not really funny to me. It's real information about life. Okay,
please.
Men have fluctuating semen values for the last 50 years. In the 70s, it started diminishing to the point that everybody started getting really worried about it because everybody was wearing tighty-whities, not boxers, or they were hot tubby.
40% or something.
And semen levels were going down. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that we've all been experiencing heavy loads of radiation coming in through our magnetosphere because our poles are changing, okay? And if you want to know about men's health and women's health, the first thing that you can go to check for genetic degradation is the health of your ovaries and your gonads, okay? Your testicles. And semen is a great way to get that information. It's not like you're being raped. They're not going to use you for breeding, like a lot of people put out there. That's not what they're about. They're checking on the viable health of your DNA, of your endocrine system, of your metabolic system, and your overall health. By that alone, okay? This is a very good precursor. When you're in the hospital and a doctor orders certain tests on you, they can draw your blood and do that, but they don't draw your blood. They get the easiest from you without hurting you, and that would be semen, or women ovulation, or they take samples from, you know, different parts of their bodies, okay? It is so important for us to be educated enough to understand why these tests are occurring, and not the lore of being violated.
Right.
Violation.
Stephen Fowler talked about that.
Yeah.
You know, and in the Betty Andreasen case, certainly that was a big part of what she was told by the ETs.
Right.
So that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, it's a good case. Have you run into multiple witness cases? Because a lot of the people I interview, in terms of on-board experiences, it's multiple witness cases, I should say, are much rarer than single witness cases. And that's kind of true with humanoids too, you know?
Yeah, I think they're probably more common than we know, and just these experiencers, you know, might not know either, you know, that it's multiple, but yeah, I don't run into them often. I think maybe two, and one I can remember pretty well. The other one I don't, but yeah, I don't run across it very often.
What's the multiple witness case that?
Yeah, so there was this woman who was having these really strange dreams, and it was her and her husband, and they would be on board this UFO. She knew it was a UFO, but there was nobody else on board. It was just him and her. And
that's kind of interesting.
And they went into this one room, and like a panel opened up, and it was like a window, and they could see that they were in space. So then they were kind of instructed, like just telepathically, I think, to go downstairs. And so like they took this elevator that was like on the UFO, and it opened up, and when the elevator closed, they were like in this vacuum of sound. It was like everything was very muffled, or like dead sounding, you know, like if they like banged on the side of the wall, like it made a a deadening sound. It wasn't echoing like normal. So anyways, the elevator door opens up, and now it's like this department store, and all of these clothes, and all the clothes are white, and there's female clothes in her opinion, and there's male clothes again in her opinion, and everything was either her size or his size, and they were instructed telepathically to like put these clothes on. So they do, and that's kind of the dream, a reoccurring dream that she kind of keeps having. So now in her waking life with the same husband, they're going to bed one night. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and the kids are downstairs. They have like a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old at the time, and they're about to watch a movie downstairs. Mom and dad are going upstairs to like lay in bed and watch TV and stuff. And so she's brushing her teeth. The husband's getting ready for bed, and he sees this light outside. And he's like, what the hell is that? And she kind of pokes her head out of the bathroom, and she's like, what? And he's like, there's this weird light outside. And so she goes and looks, and she's like, it's the freaking moon, idiot. And she's like, no, the moon's over here. And so she looks, and she's like, oh my God, you're right. He's like, you want to go outside and look at it? And she's like, yeah. So they go downstairs. Yeah. So they go downstairs, and the kids are like, what are you guys doing? Because they, the parents are like going outside 9 o'clock at night, and they thought they were going to bed. So the kids are like, what are you guys doing? Well, there's this weird light outside. You want to come out and look? And the kids go, yeah. So now all four of them are outside on the porch, and the light is to the far right. So they kind of have to like lean over the porch and look to the right. And they're looking at this thing that's kind of high up, but they see the moon. The moon's over here, and they see the light over here. And then all of a sudden, the light shoots to the front of the house. Now it's facing them directly, and it's descended quite a bit.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So all four of them are watching it, and then a moment later, it blinks out. And they're like, wow, it was there, and then it wasn't. Like, that was weird. They're like, yeah, that's crazy. Well, let's go back inside. So they go back inside, and the kids go, hey, our movie's over. Like, they could see the credits running. And she's like, no, that's the credits of the last movie. Your movie's going to start in just a second. And so they're like, no, that's the movie. And so she goes to the kitchen and looks at the clock on the stove, and it's a little after 11 p.m. And the whole entire family lost about 4 hours. And they all recognized it. They all talked about it just in that moment, and then they never mentioned it again. They didn't want to. They didn't want to explore it until I talked to her some 35 years later, and she's telling me this story about the dream, and she had a lot of strange stuff happen, but that one really stands out.
Wow.
I want to say something to you real quick, because I'm watching the chat, and I have two reasons for this. One, it's called conditional memory. We as human beings can cause our own amnesia. Okay, we are very good at it. If it's above our pay rate, in other words, if we can't handle what we just went through, if it's just too much, it's not going into delusion. We literally choose amnesia. It's like somebody getting hit in the head or having a traumatic experience that's so traumatic that you just shut it down. Boom, you're amnesiac. Okay. That's why you can't remember everything that goes on with ET, because we literally cause that to happen to ourselves. The other thing is that ET doesn't take anything from you or do anything to you that they don't have full permission from you for. You're not being violated. You're not being attacked. And 99.999% of all experiencers were given a chance to work through their experiences and come out the other end of it, realize that, oh yeah, they didn't harm me. It was okay. I really do feel like I did give permission, and I'm trying to remember everything now. Okay.
Which is a journey for some of them, for sure.
Right. Yeah. It is our fear that causes us to forget everything. Literally, we cause our own amnesia problems. They don't make you lose your memory. That is all on us, not them. Literally. As a nurse, I can tell you all the time that there are small children who go into amnesia, and they break off any trauma that they've had, especially serious trauma, and won't remember it for years or never again. Okay, adults do it too. Fear, trauma can make you, and if you don't understand what's happening to you at first, it's going to come out like that, because everybody on this planet is trained to be afraid. Everybody's trained to think about horror. Everybody's trained to think they're being violated. Everybody's paranoid. You're not taught to be a perfect observer and see things that are really actually going on, and then open your mouths and say something in the situation that helps you remember what it was. 9 times out of 10, if you stop an ET and say, okay, explain this to me, and they do, you'll remember it. And every experiencer who does remember has that issue going on. They've asked, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And they're not afraid, and they accept what's happening because they're agreeing to it. They know why. ET will tell you why, and it's all fun and games after that.
I had my own episode of missing time once after a little orb came down.
Yeah.
And I remembered it about some months later, but never did recall. Well, I did recall through kind of the dream state what happened. But you know what's interesting to me is something you said regarding this lady and her family. They didn't talk about it. I'm sure you've run across that in other cases.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's so many cases where someone's like, "You're the only person I've told this to," you know. And while that's a privilege, I'm also like, wow, like there's not a lot of processing going on. There's not a lot of, really like addressing, because some of the stuff is very traumatic to people. They can't help how they feel sometimes, and they do feel as though this was a traumatic situation, and it's, it can be repressed by a lot of people, and that sucks. So I'm glad I can talk to some of these people and help them, hopefully feel a little bit better, but they're also getting it out, which is good. And I can let them know that there are other people out there that are experiencing similar things, like you're not alone, and and that seems to help, which is good.
Were you able to talk with that whole family or just the lady?
Just the lady. And, by the end of it, because we talked for quite a while, and she's had a bunch of stuff happen. But one of the last things.
It's usually not a one-off.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the last things she said to me, she's like, she was teared up, and she was like, "Why me?" And I'm like, I don't know. But what I do know is because you're sharing your story with me and allowing me to share it with other people, somebody else who's asking that same question might not feel so alone because they know you went through it. Right. And that seemed to give her a little bit of comfort. I didn't have a great answer, but I'm like, it might help somebody else. And at the very least, I think that's a good thing,
As we talk about things, as we let it go, it's a cathartic situation comes in.
Sure.
You can counsel people. You can too. You're a researcher, and I'll give you a piece of advice, okay? When you're talking to somebody who's had these experiences and they seem negative at first and they're afraid and they're alone, what you need to do is say, you don't necessarily need somebody to hypnotize you. You can take yourself down into those situations yourself. You can learn to meditate. You can learn to hypnotize your own self and bring yourself into the reality of what you've seen and what you're experiencing. And that way you're ready for the next time it happens, where you're more in control. People feel out of control at first. They don't know what's going on because they're amnesiac about it. In other words, you need to walk them through the process of gaining control over their anonymity, okay? Because otherwise they're going to become full-fledged victims. They're going to be full of fear still. They're never going to get over it. And that's no way to be. Yeah. When you're a nurse or a doctor and you're bringing somebody into the hospital and they have a very bad thing wrong with them and you're trying to help them and work with them, you don't just say, you're going to do this, this, and this because I said so, right? You talk to them. You tell them what's going on. You help them with their fear. You bring them through it. You keep a communication with them so that they're 100% comfortable with what's going on. We've been taught not to do that in our own lives. We don't when we feel isolated or in fear or whatever, we're not willing to go that extra few steps to lose the fear. In other words, to tamp it down and shine a light in the situation that we're in. In other words, survivorship comes at no cost to you, except that you'll become a victim if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And
particularly with this subject, because there's this sort of fear-based narrative being put forth by the media, certainly, and by governments. Now, I'm curious, and I'm not sure if you can answer this. What were some of her other strange experiences? I'm always interested in how this affects people and what happened before, what happened after.
Yeah. So about, say, 15 years later or so, she had since divorced her husband. She has a boyfriend now, and the kids are out of the house. And she has another bout of missing time. But this played a little bit different than the last time. So her boyfriend during that time liked to go into the woods and collect antlers, and he would make, things, lamb and all this stuff with them. Yeah. And she loved going out there with him, and they had a dog, and they'd all go out and look, and they would typically split up and carry walkie-talkies, and, so they could find each other and all that good stuff. Yeah. So they park, they're in the woods. He goes one way, she goes another way with the dog. They have their walkies, they keep them on. And as she's walking, she's like, where the hell am I? Like, she'd been out there a bunch of times, but she's like, why am I lost all of a sudden? And the dog had seemed fine, just kind of sniffing around and being with her. And she's like, this is weird. Let me get the walkie and radio the boyfriend and see if he can tell me where I'm at. I'll tell him what I see. And, so she gets on the walkie, and as soon as she tries to use it, this burst of static comes out of the walkie-talkie, and then it's unusable, and she's like, what the hell? So she keeps walking. Her concern is growing. It's, what was supposed to be a half hour is turning into an hour and a half. And now it's turning into like 2 hours. And she finally sees the peak of this mountain. She's like, oh, that must be Mount, whatever the hell. And she's like, if I see that, that means I need to turn around and like go west or whatever. So she figures that out, and she continues to walk. Another 20, 30 minutes goes by. And as she's walking, she starts to hear a car horn. And she's like, what the hell is that? And so it kind of makes her, lights a fire under her to get moving pretty fast. And it turns out it was her boyfriend in the car honking. And so she runs up to the truck. She's like, oh my God, like, you totally helped me get back here. And he's like, he's mad. He gets out of the car and he's like, where the hell have you been? It's been 4 hours. Ooh. And she looks at her clock. She's like, oh my God, I've been gone a while, but it feels like 2 hours to me, not 4 hours. And they didn't end up getting into a fight about it, but she was very concerned about like what happened. She had missing time. He asked, was the dog acting weird? She's like, no, the dog was fine the whole time. I just felt lost. It's been 4 hours. And she kept having to look at the clock to like convince herself it had been that long.
Yeah, she got put down where she didn't get picked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did she tell the boyfriend like, oh, well, I have this issue?
Yeah, he seemed to be well aware of what's happened in her past. There's another incident where she was having this pain in her hip, and she goes to the doctor, and they take an X-ray, and the doctor, after he gets the X-ray and looks at him, he comes back in to talk to her, and he jokingly says, when did you get shot with buckshot? Did your boyfriend shoot you? And she's like, what? And so he's like, well, on your thigh, like, well, here, look at this. And he pulls up the X-ray, and there's 3 silver spheres in the shape of a triangle in her thigh. And he looks down at her thigh, like to examine it in person, and there's no scarring or anything there. And she's like, what are you telling me? Like, I have these 3 pieces of metal inside me. And he's, yeah, that's what's going on right now.
She is definitely. I have in my thigh as well.
Oh, wow.
I have one major one, and then 2 smaller ones that don't bother me. I don't mess with them. The bigger one moves from time to time and it'll vibrate.
Oh, wow. Well, in her experience, they disappeared completely. It was years later. She had another set of X-rays done, and she's like, hey, you're going to see these things in there. And the doctor's like, okay, because it was a different doctor at this point. And they take the X-ray, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing there. And he showed her the X-ray. She's like, what? And she tried to call the other doctor to see if they could get X-rays. They were gone. Yeah. The doctor literally went and checked, and he said, I don't have them. We don't destroy medical records. I don't know why I don't have them.
See, I've heard this sort of thing with the whole medical industry. There was a guy I talked to who went to the doctor because his daughter had the same issue going on, and he showed him this document, which he said was officially from the government, that we're not supposed to remove these things. We're not supposed to talk about them. We could lose our license. Wow. Yada, yada, yada. I talked to another guy. The doctor, what do you call it? Blurred out or photoshopped the implants out of the X-ray or with another X-ray.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something going on with the medical industry, and I think some doctors are in the know about this. I don't know. But I've come to believe that almost all contactees do have these things.
Yeah.
My mother was treated by the military because she had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And she had been married for 6 years and no babies, and she was going into menopause. And they irradiated both her ovaries and her pituitary gland with cobalt radiation. And they told her, don't get pregnant for a year. But unfortunately, right after the last treatment, she got pregnant with me. They not only erased all of her records for that, they erased my a lot of my birth records are flat slap missing. We went to go get them when I was 18 because I said, why don't you have these already? Why didn't you get a copy of this stuff when it happened? She said, well, I wasn't thinking about it. And when we went to get them, redacted, it's gone. And the doctor who treated her is gone. No more about this doctor. The only reason I have proof of it is my aunts talked about it. Everybody is on paper about it in our family. They all knew about it, including my mother, and she left, we talked about it. And you see my birth certificate and you can see that I'm a twin with a missing twin. That's the only evidence we have that weird things are going on, and
Yeah. Wow.
but then let's take care of
Yeah. Oh, fascinating.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
tell
I
us
have
more.
I have other evidence. Tell your people if they have anything happen to them. You got to be smart. You got to immediately get screenshots of everything. Get downloads, get the paperwork for it. Do not let it go missing on you. Keep copies of everything.
If you have an encounter, write it down quick because you could
Right.
forget it.
Document it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll even do a thing where I'm driving late at night and I'll keep my eye on the time. Like, okay, nope, there's no missing time. I'm
Which
good.
can happen so easily. I think there's a lot of people who probably have it and would never know. How would you?
Yeah. It's, very
Have you ever had missing time, Nomar?
I personally have not, but I've talked to so many people that have. It almost seems like it's a standard now because I just talked to so many people that have missing time. It almost seems like it's a part of like every little thing, and it's not with just like UFO stuff. There, so I don't know if people kind of get lost in some of these encounters with these humanoids, or if there's a trance thing going on, or if they're part of a different dimension or something when this is happening. But it'll happen when they're experiencing an entity sighting as well, and what they thought was just like a few seconds or a couple of minutes of seeing this thing, once they get back to the car it might have been an hour or so, and they're like, what? I haven't been standing there for an hour watching this thing, like. So I obviously that's fascinating and wildly scary, like, because what's going on during that time with this entity that's present,
Right. And I've come to realize the closer you are to a UFO, the greater the chance that something like that's going to happen.
Yeah. If you see one, if one's within 500 feet of you, guarantee you're going to have something happen to you.
Yeah.
Because they don't come down like that unless it's for you.
Right. Right. And I say I don't remember missing time, but when I was a child and the next thing I remember is just waking up. I'm seeing the thing, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking up. That's a form of missing time, sure, but I didn't have an awareness of it, at the time. I just was a little kid and I saw a thing, and then I went to bed and woke up.
All right. So do you have people reporting grays as well? I'm sure you've probably gotten a number of
a number of grays. The gentleman I was talking about before, Mike Stevens, he's a gentleman that's in New Hampshire, and he's had a lifetime of encounters, and I wrote a book about his encounters up till the present time when the book came out. And he's had a number of experiences with a lot of different entities, but there was this pocket of time. It was like a 9 or 11 month time period where he was visited. It seemed to him like maybe a couple of times a week, and it almost seemed like it was school lessons is why they came. And he said there were 3 entities. One was male and military in presence is what he thought. Wow. And there was a female, and she seemed very motherly and was the teacher. And then there was a child, and the child, he and this child entity would often share like jokes between each other. There was this image that this child entity put into his head that kind of looked like the robot maid from the Jetsons, and they shared a laugh about it, which was kind of fun. But for the majority of these visits, he saw these entities as like these wispy, smoky things that weren't fully like formed, but he could kind of see humanoid aspects to their presence, I guess. But the last night that they were there, that's when they like showed themselves to him. And the child entity most certainly looked most like a gray, as compared to the other ones, because the other ones were taller and their skin was more scaly, if you will. And one was olive green or greenish, and the other one might have been the male might have been a little bit more brown, but again also scaly. But they seemed very benevolent and were helping him, he thought, and were giving him lessons. And
Did
the
he
reason
describe where it was?
it was in his bedroom.
Oh, okay. Only in his room. He wasn't anywhere?
Yeah, only in his bedroom is the way he remembers it.
Okay.
And he seemed to think on this night there was this other species of alien that was also trying to abduct him, and the benevolent ones had gotten in the way of it or in the middle of it to prevent it from happening. And so in doing so, they had to like reveal their true selves to him. He doesn't know why, but he's thinking it's because they had to intercept this other abduction that was going to happen. And he was under the impression that this is something that might happen more often than we know, where there's like competing things.
Yeah, it would be the military industrial complex watching every single contactee who's literally got ongoing contact, and they'll come in and try to grab the kid. I've had that happen to me twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they pretend the children involved don't exactly perceive them as who they are. And yeah, that happens. The military, I'm not kidding you, they'll come in and try to get you while it's happening. They'll do anything to capture one during an event and try to grab the alien as well.
Interesting. Wow. He felt very protected by them. And,
yeah, I'm sure he was.
And he was very, he felt that he was very lucky that they were there to protect him. So this other, what he felt was more negative, wouldn't take him or whatever. Really strange.
Well, the military industrial complexes, my labbers are bad. They're very creepy people. And they know no empathy for anybody, and they'll resource anything they can do to grab you. If you're a contactee, they'll try to get you and take you down. Yep.
Wow. Preston, there was this other time where he woke up in the middle of the night and he was kind of drawn to go look out the window. And when he did, he said he saw these 5 small entities. They kind of looked like grays. They had the big eyes and large heads, but they were wearing like these burlap sacks for clothing. And they had these little shovels in front of them. And then in front of that, there were these tiny holes that he assumed they dug with the shovels, although he said the shovels looked a little bit too big for the holes that were in front of him. and that was basically the experience. But he's like, what the hell am I looking at here?
Were they short?
He thought so. And when I say short, like 3 to 4 feet tall.
Yeah. There's an ethnicity of grays that are like that. Some of them are thinner, some of them are a little bit more heavy. They tend to be heavier than the other grays, But kids don't discern weight on, it's like they see things and they paradolize it, they just put it into a category and but the shovel thing is a dead giveaway. They're the shorter ones. And they work with children.
So wow. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense that they were present there.
Burlap sacks is kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. I was going to ask have you come across that at all? Like, specifically that, because it seemed to him that it was kind of like old world type of clothing, or like super poor.
Yes, Sarah has seen them. She drew a picture of one. Painted it.
Yeah, I have run across it. I don't get a whole lot of cases, but I'm always reviewing any cases I can find, really.
Yeah.
And I just find the whole, alien fashion topic kind of interesting.
It's really strange. And talking to Lauren Coleman, who's also a Mainer, and, on the Bigfoot side of things, he and I have talked about Sasquatch sightings where they have been seen wearing like a plaid or flannel type of shirt, or like kind of cut off jeans, if you will, like the Incredible Hulk. We have this famous story here called the Cherryfield Goat Man, and this happened in the mid 1950s.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's this weird otherworldly thing that happened to it as well. But I'll get into that. So this guy like gassed up his truck and he was driving into the woods and he was going to work and doing his thing. And all of a sudden, while he's driving, the car like stops and he's like, "What the hell?" And he looks down and his gas gauge is empty. And he's like, "What the hell? I must have a gas leak or something," because he just put gas in. So he parks the truck and he gets underneath it and everything's bone dry. And then he feels like he's being watched.
Yep.
And so he climbs out from underneath the truck and he looks and he says that there's this, 6 foot tall, 6-footish tall creature there. It's got hooves and it's got the face of a goat, but it's got arms and legs like a person other than the hooves. And it's wearing a plaid shirt, but no pants. And it's looking at him and he's not getting a good feeling from this. It then smiles at him. And it smiles at him in a way that says, "Follow me into the woods." And he's like, "What? I am not going to follow
the
you."
goat man. No.
Yeah. And so the goat man, smiles and then he turns around and walks back into the woods. And this guy, he's like, "I'm getting out of here." He jumps back into the truck. And I think just not thinking, he just starts it up so he can like get out of there. And he's like, "Whoa, wait, it started." And he looks down and he's got gas again. And he's like, "What?" And so he just drives out. And that's the whole encounter, And I've tried to find like the origin of the story, where this came from. I even talked to the historical society in the town where this happened. I had to tell them about this story. They had never heard of it.
Oh my goodness.
And so they were doing their research to see if they could find anything. And everything they found is just stuff I had already found. So there was no like there.
For nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't find the origin, but it's so interesting when fashion comes into play. When you can, the alien was wearing this skin tight suit. Like in the Allagash cases, they were wearing the skin tight suits, but they were like bluish, shiny type of garb that they were wearing. But in another case that also took place in Maine, they were wearing like these black robes.
Yep.
And then there was another case closer to where I live, and there was 3 of them, and they were also in robes, but they were white robes and they had hoods up, but they were clearly like strange looking alien type faces. So it's always fascinating when fashion comes into play, and people.
I've got a few cases where people have seen ETs dressed up in a pinstripe suit.
Oh, wow.
Whitley Strieber described it. I had another lady. Gosh, where was she from? I forget. I did interview a lady in Maine, by the way. She was actually all over the place, Georgia and Maine. She's still up in Maine right now.
Oh,
She's
cool.
got a lot of cases. I put a chapter about her cases in one of my books.
Nice.
But they showed her little hybrid baby, and then later as a kid and full-grown adult, the hybrid baby came down and gave her a whole speech.
Wow.
And it's really an amazing case. Talk to her about. So if people should start disappearing from this planet, it's being done by us for the greater good. The New Madrid fault is at some point going to blow. There's going to be more earthquakes. They told her all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So they're always watching over her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some cases are just more extensive, but the alien fashion thing is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Some are just wild, off the charts, bizarre.
For sure.
Hats I've heard.
Yep. That Mike Stevens fellow I was just telling you about, he had one that was wearing a T-shirt with ET on it.
Yeah.
And they were doing it in a sense to like kind of be funny, and because he was still a kid at this point, and trying to make him more comfortable, while in Mike's opinion they were tinkering with his brain, but they were trying to like keep him occupied by like, look how silly I am, wearing this ET shirt. And yeah, wild.
Wow. Let's see. We've got about 10 more minutes. Can you think of any other cool stories from your book you want to share, or do you want to talk about another book?
Sure. I have a new book that's coming out this year, and it's called In the Pines. And it's more strange stories, but it's not just, UFO stuff. It's, monsters, UFOs, but also bizarre true crime, cursed lands, anything strange that I could find. I was, putting it all in. And there's this one story about this woman. Her name is Elsie. And this happened in the late 1800s. She was a church organist, about 24 years old, living with her family. And, she hadn't had the best life. Her mother died from tuberculosis, and
Mm.
she was really scared that she was going to catch that and die from it as well. She also really struggled with her relationship with God, and she felt very often that she wasn't religious enough. She wasn't doing enough for God and for her community. And that's just something that really weighed on her. And people are like, you're fine. You're doing plenty, like stop worrying about this. But, she couldn't. And so she had been ill and hadn't been playing the church organ for like the past couple of weeks on Sundays. So this was her first day back, and she wanted to get there early. So she did all of her chores early and then started walking to the church, and she wanted to, play a little bit so she could shake the rust off. And everybody else showed up to the church about an hour, maybe 2 hours later, and Elsie wasn't there. She never showed up. And everybody was concerned because this was not normal behavior for her. So people were so concerned that her brother went home and made sure that she wasn't there as well. And then the whole town came together to search for her. They even shut down the mills come Monday so everybody could be available. And they ended up having about 800 people searching for this girl.
Wow.
And about 5 days go by. And I think it was Friday, and they brought bloodhounds in to search for her, and they gave them some clothes to smell.
Wow.
And the bloodhounds ended up finding like this pile of clothes that belonged to her, and they brought them to the family. They're like, yeah, that's her stuff. So they went back to where they had found the clothes, and they had the bloodhounds, and they kept searching, and the bloodhounds caught a scent on this tree. And so they get to the tree and they're looking all around, and it's very wooded, so it's not like it's easy to look around where they were, but the dogs are like standing up on the tree and barking. And the searchers finally look up, and Elsie is at the top of this tree.
What?
And she's alive, like hanging on to the tree and just like looking at them like wide-eyed and kind of feral. And they're like, oh my God, we found her. Let's tell everybody. They even like sounded the alarm, like the town alarm, to let people know. It was a bell, I guess, to let them know that they had found her. And they had to like put up, she wouldn't come down. So they had to they had to get a ladder. They put up the ladder. They brought her dad over because she had a really good relationship with her dad. And he was trying to coax her down, and she wouldn't come down. So somebody had to physically go up there in the ladder and like kind of like pull her down and like pry her fingers off the branches and stuff. They finally get her down. She's not talking. And she was very verbal beforehand, but she's not talking at all. She gets in the car, and she finally has some sort of recognition that it's her father because she like rests her head on his shoulder. And then finally, as the days go by, she's finally coming around, and she's talking now. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I left, and I guess I got lost. And then it was 5 days later, and I'm up in a tree. But until the day she died, she went on to live like a normal life, got married, all this great stuff, but never knew what happened to her. So, as a modern researcher and as modern eyes are looking on this case, some people are thinking it might have been like a fugue state sort of thing.
Catatonia, not fugue, catatonia.
Oh, okay.
Catatonia is they're able to breathe, look at you. They won't talk. She was in full catatonic apoplexy where she was grabbing on so tight she couldn't let go. She was locked. Okay. And they had to pull her loose. And then she saw her dad. Catatonia takes about 5 to 10 days to come out of.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And you're describing it beautifully. She was catatonic. Yeah.
Dolly was a nurse, by the way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Good to know. So it's, I also have like stories like that are also in the book that are, just as bizarre and just as fascinating as, somebody seeing some sort of entity. A new thing, though, I'm introducing into this book are QR codes. Not for every story, but for stories where there might be a cool video or a cool picture or something.
Oh, wow.
I'll say, hey, if you want to see this picture that I've been talking about the last couple of pages, here's a QR code where you can scan it. And
yeah, it's very cool.
Works well if it's on Kindle.
Yeah, absolutely. But I made sure that it works on, the print book, and it works like a charm. So
wow.
I'm very pleased.
Well, I love the title, In the Pines. That's intriguing. It's a good title.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm very excited. That's coming out later this year. And I had a podcast previously, and that kind of ran its course. And I'm starting a new one that's launching in the spring, and that's called Haunted Pines. And the trailer is out now. So if you search Haunted Pines, Nomar Slevik, you'll find it on all your podcatchers. And subscribe so you don't miss the first episode.
Right.
And that's a true crime case where a woman walked into a department store, a famous department store that we have in Maine. It's called Rennie's. And she walked into Rennie's and never came back out. And this podcast episode is what people allegedly think happened to this woman.
Wow. Well, true crime is very popular for some reason.
Yeah.
It's number one.
I'm fascinated by it, but I like it when there's a twist or something, really strange to it, and this first episode certainly has a twist to it that I'm excited for people to hear.
Totally cool.
So you have a really cool website where you can get all your stuff, allmylinks.com/Slevik. So
that's it.
Yeah.
We have that in the show notes for people to check out.
Awesome.
But yeah, we're right here at the end. Here, let me just flash your book so people can get a good look at some of the covers. I like the cover. It's simple but really intriguing.
Yeah, my girlfriend painted this, and I love the image. Because it's for us, it represents this woman in white, although it's a woman in black, obviously. But there's this story that we love that's from Maine about this woman that appears like on foggy nights on this road, and this was like her interpretation of it, and I just love it. And that story is in this book, and I just loved how it came out. And then I have the Stephen King font, and so between the two of us, we came up with this cover, and I just love it. I think it came out great. I love the color. I love that she painted it, and it came out awesome.
It's really nice. I like it.
It's got a very haunting feel to it.
Yeah,
it really does.
And we also just turned Humanoid Encounters into an audiobook. So you can search Humanoid Encounters on Audible, and No AI, my buddy, narrated it, and he did a phenomenal job. So everybody should definitely check that out if you can.
Yeah, we've got quite a few books, so congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks so much, and so do you, my friend.
It's fun, isn't it? It takes a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work, but boy, we love it.
But UFOs over Maine. Someone had to do it.
This is the book about Mike Stevens, the gentleman I've been telling you about. He's from New Hampshire, and that's the Old Man on the Mountain, which has crumbled, which sucks. But
well, you've got well, very, very cool. I hope everyone has a chance to check them out. And thanks very much for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for everybody in the chat. You guys asked some good questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Stay with us for a few minutes after we hang up the channel. Okay, don't go away right away. All right.
All right. Well, let me just say a quick thanks to the folks who are watching today. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your Monday evenings to share our stories with us. And Nomar, you were amazing.
Thank you.
When your next book comes out, we'll definitely want to have you back on if you're okay with that.
Heck yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Namaste. You guys who donate. It helps us so much, Henry. Then from Oz, we truly appreciate it. Sharice Bazilla. And of course, all of you guys, we love you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And okay, Dolly, I hate to do it, but take us out.
Thank you for being with us on this edition of The Lightgate. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. We are on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. Everybody go have a wonderful week. Look up everything we talk about. There's so much stuff that you can research for yourself as well, instead of just hearing things and trying to decide if they're true. You do your homework too. We love you. Night, night.